Welcome back to 6 and 6, where we cover 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. Today we open in Johannesburg, aka South Africa, where one of the largest buildings in the country had recently been re-renovated and is possibly signaling a revival of the city. From BBC, quote, "Built in 1975, standing almost 200 meters tall, it's a long-established feature of the skyline, once the tallest residential building in Africa." And before we go on, just so you know, it's called the Point Tower. End quote. So the history here is that throughout the course of the 1980s, it was not demolished, it was destroyed. It was overtaken by gangs, essentially. I mean, there was trash up to 14 stories, essentially, and now it's being cleared out, and the idea is that signals a turning point for Johannesburg and possibly a little bit of hope. Next, we go to the Central America region, where we focus on Mexico. This article comes from Reuters, and it talks about how the oil firm Pemex is actually on track to become a little bit more privatized and have less government involvement in their operations. Quote, Reuters reported in August, after Lopez Obrador's successor, Claudia Sheinbaum, took office in October, that her government would start to look at a joint venture for Pemex in a bid to boost its reserves and navigate mounting debt. The text sent to Congress on Wednesday lays out the so-called secondary laws and guidelines to roll out an energy reform passed last year. Pemex may request the Energy Ministry convert some existing service contracts, such as one that it has with billionaire Carlos Slim's Grupo Carso in the Larkin deepwater natural gas field, to joint partnerships for exploration and extraction contracts, according to the bill. End quote. Next, we come over to Asia, where there's a possible fraud scandal going on with the vice president of the Philippines, who is likely to be impeached. Quote, Durante has been accused of misusing millions of dollars in public funds and threatening to have President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. assassinated. She has denied the charges and alleged she's a victim of a political vendetta. The shock move is widely seen as an escalation of the bitter feud between Durante and Marcos, which has kept the nation on edge for months, end quote. Next, we travel a little bit further south to New Zealand, where Waitangi Day has thousands of members gathering outside New Zealand in the Maori Right in Focus. With the Maori Right in Focus. So this is the traditional Maori group that is being I don't want to say used, but the idea is that they are protesting against the New Zealand government. But there's this idea that possibly the native populations don't mind the situation as much. And then again, these protests have been ongoing for quite some time. So to say that there is not some tension between New Zealand's government and the native people who believe that they have some right to the land, it's not unfounded to say that there is some tension there. Quote, Waitangi's Day marks the first signing of New Zealand's founding document, the Treaty of Waitangi, or Te Rati o Waitangi and Maori. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of those words. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon bucked tradition by choosing not to be in Waitangi for the celebration, instead attending an event in the South Islands. This year, commemorations come at a time of increased tension as the government pursues policies considered by some anti-Maori, including a bill which would reinterpret the 184-year treaty. On Wednesday, the eye of the holiday, hundreds of Maori protesters staged a silent demonstration by turning their backs on the government ministers, signaling their dissatisfaction with the handling of the indigenous issue. Next, we go to Europe, where Italy has talked about reports of potential spyware being used to look into people's WhatsApp history. Quote, Luca Carcena, co-founder of the Mediterranean Savings Humanity charity, showed Reuters that the spyware alert he had received from WhatsApp on Friday. It was the same day Meta publicly accused surveillance company Paragon Solutions for targeting roughly 90 users in some 24 countries, including an unspecified number of reporters and activists. In a statement, Melani's office said the cybersecurity agency was informed by WhatsApp via a law firm about the 7 confirmed cases in Italy, end quote. And lastly, we're going to finish very quickly in Brazil, where roasters are fearing that their coffee prices may soar. Quote, Brazil's Coffee Roasters Association, ABIC, recently identified in grocery powder products marketed as coffee, but they are most likely not made with the bean. It is a clear attempt to fool customers, said Cirilo Evaco da Silva, ABC's executive director, end quote. And if you want to check out any of these articles more in full, you want to read more about them, they're all in the link in the description below that like and subscribe button. Also down there, you can find the podcast on Spotify, Pocket Casts, and Podvine. And if you want to come back and listen to American-centric news, that comes out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at this exact same YouTube channel and RSS feed. So with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe, don't die.